Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradari Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradari Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vānaprastha-āśrama Yamuna Tira Vānaprastha-āśrama Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Vishnupada Paramahamsa Parivrajakacarya Ashtavarashata Shri Srimad Bhakti Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai Jai Vishnupada Paramahamsa Parivrajakacarya Ashtavarashata Shri Srimad Bhakti Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada Ki Jai Anantakoti Vaishnavan Ki Jai Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to Shri Guru and Shri Guranga. Hare Krishna. Can you pass the book, please? Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Seventh Canto, The Science of God, Chapter 12. Waiting for, okay.
Perfect Society for Spiritual Classes.
There it is. The Perfect Society for Spiritual Classes, Text 12. Anjanabhya Jano Marda Stri Avalekam Madhu Sraganda Vipaulankarangs Tyajayur Ye Brihadbritaha Anjana, what is it? Yeah, I kind of went to sleep late last night. Maybe you could lead us, if you don't mind. Here you go. Here's a mic.
Anjana Bhyanjanonmarda Stravaleka Misham Madhu Sragandalepa Lankarangs Chajeyurye Brahadbataha Anjana Bhyanjanonmarda Stravaleka Misham Madhu Sragandalepa Lankarangs Chajeyurye Brahadbataha Anjana Bhyanjanonmarda Stravaleka Misham Madhu Sragandalepa Lankarangs Chajeyurye Brahadbataha
All right. Anjana, ointment or powder for decorating the eyes. Abhyajana, massaging the head. Anmarda, massaging the body. Stri avaleka, to glance over a woman or to paint a woman's picture. Amisham, meat eating. Madhu, drinking liquor or honey. Srak, decorating the body with garlands of flowers. Gandalepa, smearing the body with scented ointment. Alankaran, decorating the body with ornaments. Tajehu, must give up. Yea, those who Vrihat-vritaha have taken the vow of celibacy. Translation by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Brahmacharis, or gṛhasthas, who have taken the vow of celibacy, as described above, should not indulge in the following: applying powder or ointment to the eyes, massaging the head with oil, massaging the body with the hands, seeing a woman or painting a woman's picture, eating meat, drinking wine, decorating the body with flower garlands, smearing scent and ointment on the body, or decorating the body with ornaments. These they should give up. All right, so next, 13 and 14. Shidvaivam gurukule dvijoditya vyabudyacha traim sangam Upaniṣadam yavat artam yatabalam tatvavaram anudgyato kuro kaman yadishvaraha grihambanam va pravijet tatra va viset. Okay, translation. According to the rules and regulations mentioned above, one who is twice born, namely Brahman, Kṣatriya, Vaiśya, should reside in the gurukula under the care of the spiritual master. There he should study and learn all the Vedic literatures along with their supplements and the Upaniṣads according to his ability and power to study. If possible, the student or disciple should reward the spiritual master with the remuneration the spiritual master requests, and then, following the master's order, the disciple should leave and accept one of the other āśrams, namely the gṛhastha-āśrama, vānaprastha-āśrama, or sannyāsa-āśrama, as he desires. Purport. To study the Vedas and understand them, of course, requires some special intelligence, but the members of the three higher sections of society, namely the Brahmins, Kshatriyas, and Vaiśyas, must learn the Vedic literatures according to their capability and power to understand. In other words, studying the Vedic literatures is compulsory for everyone but the Shudras and Antyajas. The Vedic literature gives the knowledge that can lead one to understand the absolute truth, Brahman, Paramatma, or Bhagavan. Gurukula, or the reformatory educational institution, should be used only to understand Vedic knowledge. At the present time, there are many educational institutions for training and technology, but such knowledge has nothing to do with understanding of the absolute truth. Technology, therefore, is meant for the Shudras, whereas the Vedas are meant for the Dvijas. Consequently, this verse states, Dvijo ditya vabudya cha trayim sangopanishadam. At the present time, in the age of Kali, practically everyone is a Shudra and no one is a Dvija. Therefore, the condition of society has very much deteriorated. Another point to be observed from this verse is that from the brahmacharya ashram, one may accept the sannyasa-āśrama, vānaprastha-āśrama, or gṛhastha-āśrama. It is not compulsory for a brahmachari to become a gṛhastha. Because the ultimate aim is to understand the absolute truth, there is no necessity of going through all the different ashrams. Thus, one may proceed to the sannyasa-āśrama directly from the brahmacharya ashram. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur accepted the sannyasa-āśrama directly from the brahmacharya ashram. In other words, His Divine Grace Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur did not think it compulsory to accept the gṛhastha-āśrama or vānaprastha-āśrama. Om Jnanativedandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshulunmalitam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Mukham Karitvachalam Pangam Langate Girim Yakipatamaham Vande Shri Gurundinitaranam Vancha Kapadurubhischa Kripasindu Bevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gauda Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Translation again, we'll just read the 13 and 14 again. According to the rules and regulations mentioned above, one who is twice born, namely a Brahman, Kṣatriya, or Vaiśya, should reside in the gurukula under the care of the spiritual master. There he should study and learn all the Vedic literatures along with their supplements and the Upaniṣads, according to his ability and power to study. If possible, the student or disciple should reward the spiritual master with the remuneration the spiritual master requests, and then, following the master's order, the disciple should leave and accept one of the other ashrams, namely the gṛhastha-āśrama, vānaprastha-āśrama, or sannyāsa-āśrama, as he desires. So, welcome, Bhuta Bhavana Prabhu, Hare Krishna. Bhuta Bhavana Prabhu is a disciple of His Holiness Bhakti Tirtha Swami, and he's been working with the youth for, over 2 decades now? Yeah, so. Yeah, he's been working with the youth, doing these retreats in Europe and America, maybe other parts of the world, in which they get 40, 50, or however many devotees together and give them classes and so on. So he's come here from the UK to to give classes and so on, because we have a group of devotees coming. It starts tomorrow. This evening. Okay. Starts this evening, and it's going Friday, Saturday, and half day Sunday. So, Bhutta Bhavana Prabhu is one of the speakers. And I think they're doing something separately at the hotel tonight, and then tomorrow they plan to come here for at 7:15, and then there'll be a class. I think maybe you'll give it tomorrow. Okay, someone else is giving it tomorrow, Radha Bhakti, and then the next day is Bhutta Bhavana Prabhu. Keshava Swami is also coming to give a class on Saturday. So, short trip. I think he's just here for less than, I don't know, maybe 24 hours or something. So as we see in the Bhagavatam, as we read in the Bhagavatam, as we hear from the Bhagavatam, that the human form of life is a great responsibility. We have a great responsibility to approach the absolute truth, to reawaken our lost loving relationship with Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And Rishabhadev says the process. He says there's a process for that. Nayam deho deha bhajam nirloke, that humans should engage in divine austerity, tapo divyam. Of course, everyone is engaging in austerity. It's austere to live in this world. We have to engage in austerity in order to. People have to engage in austerity in order to maintain themselves. Just like Los Angeles. Los Angeles, it's a big yajna arena. It's a place of sacrifice. People are engaging in severe yajna there. They have to wake up so early in the morning to get to work. Usually it will take about 20-30 minutes to get to where they're going, but with traffic, hour and a half, 2 hours. But they have to do that every morning and every evening coming back. Everybody's going to work at the same time, and everybody's coming back at the same time. So it's an austerity that they have to do, or that. But of course, that's for material purposes. Whereas devotees, they engage in austerities, like rising early, following the four principles, and different austerities. Living in the city, that's also an austerity. San Diego's nice in many ways. Is it your first time to San Diego? Okay, nice. Good. First time to the West Coast?
Yes.
Oh, good. Nice. Well, we hope you have a nice time and come back. San Diego's nice in many ways, in terms, if you want to look at cities, less traffic than LA and so on. But it's a city nonetheless, and it is austere living in cities. The pollution anyways, there's a number of things that are austere about living in cities. So in order to come to the platform of knowledge, of course, one thing is to read, to hear. That's a very important aspect of coming to the platform of knowledge. But another aspect of coming, or another process that has to be engaged in order for us to come to the platform of knowledge, is to, again, perform austerities or perform sacrifice, yajna. And as we know, the most important yajna for this particular age is, guess what? Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. To chant the holy names of Krishna, which will purify us gradually, just as this morning the sun came up. We're happy that the sun came up. The sun came up. It should be sunny when you're here, San Diego. It tends to be sunny often, but anyways, the sun came up, but it didn't just jump up. It didn't just go fast, right? Like in a movie or a cartoon or something, just goes up fast. But it gradually rises to the sun. So similarly, in our coming to the platform of knowledge or coming to Krishna consciousness, it's a gradual process. Of course, some devotees make the point we shouldn't make it too gradual, though. We shouldn't unnecessarily slow the process down by our lack of effort. So yeah, and this is the traditional gurukula system. It trains people, boys in a particular way, and of course there's training for girls in a particular way. But the idea is to train them how to become responsible, proper, cultured, self-controlled, knowledgeable, Krishna-conscious members of society or human beings. And then they can enter into other ashrams, such as the gṛhastha-āśrama or vānaprastha-āśrama or sannyāsa-āśrama, which it's brought up in today's verse, and Srila Prabhupada mentions it in his purport, that from the brahmacharya ashram one may accept the sannyāsa-āśrama, vānaprastha-āśrama, or gṛhastha-āśrama. And he mentions that it is not compulsory for a brahmacharya to become a gṛhastha. Sometimes people think it is. Devotees also sometimes may tend to think that just give up this brahmacharya business and just become a gṛhastha. Be honest with yourself and the world. And what are you trying to do here? People might think it's unhealthy or whatever. But Srila Prabhupada points it out here that it's not necessary, it's not compulsory. Of course, for the most part, people will, but it doesn't have to be that way. And Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he's an example of one who skipped the different ashrams, gṛhastha, vānaprastha, and went to the sannyāsa-āśrama. Now, of course, when we talk about ashrams, ultimately, as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, we shouldn't misidentify with any of these ashrams, be attached to them, but we should see ourselves as servants of the servants of Krishna, the maintainer of the gopis. Servants of the servants of the servants of the servants. There's a tendency to be caught up in material designations in the material world, so that also is in relation to the different ashrams. Do you think you could bring the clock here, Sankarshan, please? Need to keep track. Yeah. Thank you. So when we think of the sannyāsa-āśrama, it's not necessary that all devotees accept it. Formally means to change their dress and accept the danda. And it's not absolutely necessary for everyone to accept it, but some should accept it. Srila Prabhupada established it, and first in the Western world, out of all places, the first time historically that was ever done. Srila Prabhupada established it, and it has continued in ISKCON. And my conviction is that Srila Prabhupada wouldn't want that to die. I'm convinced that he wants it to continue. Of course, we hear that Srila Prabhupada's, some of his last desires was to reestablish varnashram in a more systematic or organized way, to give an example to the world. So yeah, some devotees should do it, and some should think about it. And in relation to that, and even if for us here in this room, okay, some of us may do it, and even if we don't do it, the principles of sannyas we can follow, whether we're gṛhasthas or vānaprasthas, or we could follow the principles outlined. So we could see it in that way. Because someone might think, well, why are we talking about this? Are we having like a sannyas training class or something? But it is part of the Srimad Bhagavatam. It's being mentioned here. It's part of the culture, and largely our leadership in ISKCON, they are sannyasis. Of course, not all of them are. There's other devotees in other ashrams, but a lot of people's gurus are sannyasis and so on. So to discuss the topic of sannyas is relevant, and it's in the purport today. So, in relation to Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur accepting sannyas, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur wrote a letter to Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur requesting him to execute his vision for reforming the Chaitanya movement. Because as we know, the Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's movement was completely hijacked by sahajiyas, by so many deviant groups, and they all had a very similar deviation as the four principles. They don't follow. Forget about that. They don't study the scripture. Forget about that. So that's a similar deviation that they all had, but they had unique deviations. Each group had their unique deviation. So Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur was very interested in reforming Vaishnavism, how it was practiced and how it was seen in the world. So he wrote a letter here's an excerpt from this letter. People of this world who are proud of their own aristocratic birth attack the pure Vaishnavas, saying they have taken birth in low-class families because of their sins. Thus they commit offenses. The solution to the problem is to establish the order of Daivi Varnashram Dharma, something you have started doing. You should know that to be the real service to the Vaishnav. Because pure devotional conclusions are not being preached, all kinds of superstitions and bad concepts are being called devotion by such pseudo-sampradayas, asahaji and ativadi. Please always crush these anti-devotional concepts by preaching pure devotional conclusions and by setting an example through your personal conduct. So, taking this request seriously, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he started the Gaudiya Math, the mission, led primarily by sannyasis and brahmacharis to propagate Lord Chaitanya's message throughout India. So, unlike Chaitanya, however, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur finding no one suitable. So we're talking about Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's sannyas. He couldn't find anybody suitable to give him sannyas. In this regard, there's a quote from Sridhar Swami, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's disciple, B.R. Sridhar Swami. There's a quote, he says that so many Babajis are in Vrindavan and in Navadvip, but our Guru Maharaj, Bhaktisiddhanta, did not recognize any of them. He put his hand on his forehead and exclaimed, I came to such a sacred land, but it was my own misfortune that I did not see a single Vaishnav here. That was his disappointment. That was his statement in Vrindavan. So considering that, what did he do? On Gaura Jayanti, the celebration of Lord Chaitanya's birthday, March 27, 1918, Bhaktisiddhanta conducted his own sannyas ordination ceremony, taking a tridanda and sitting in meditation before a picture of his guru, Srila Gaurkishora Das Babaji, who had left this mortal world some years earlier. On that very day, he also inaugurated his first temple. So, very revolutionary way to take sannyas, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. So, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he established the sannyas order in his Gaudiya Math, and Srila Prabhupada, following his example, established it in ISKCON. Now, the particular order of sannyas within ISKCON has had a checkered background. A lot of people who accepted sannyas, they gave it up. Quite a large percentage of people. I'm not. Yeah, there was a, and mostly that was seen as, and that was seen. The reason why a lot of people gave up their sannyas, the general idea is there that people tend to think that the devotees who accepted sannyas were too young, and therefore inexperienced, immature. Which, I mean, you could think about it. Imagine, I mean, I've been in this temple. I joined when I was 18 years old. I'll be 36 in a few days. But just thinking about somebody joining and getting sannyas after 4 years or something, 5 years, I mean, that's not much training or experience, and so you could see how people would give it up. But in this particular book here, this is a book by Yadunandan Swami, The Lives and Challenges of Vaishnava Sannyasis in Modernity, a study of the renounced order in ISKCON. He interviews many ex-sannyasis and present sannyasis, and those interviews are, very interesting and telling. A number of the interviews are, they don't actually tell who they're interviewing, so you don't know who they're interviewing. Although interesting enough is you could kind of tell by how they're talking. But one thing that's brought up is that Yadunandan Swami has analyzed that there's 10 factors why devotees have given up their sannyas in the past. So one is immature motivations for becoming a sannyasi. That's one. Another one is ordination while young. Difficult personal relationships, loneliness, and insufficient spiritual support. So again, these principles can be seen in even if we don't take sannyas, we can apply these principles. Loneliness and insufficient spiritual support. There was one very big guru within ISKCON, and yes, he gave up his sannyas, and it was this was many years ago, 20, 30 years ago, and it was a big shock to the movement. And one devotee, His Holiness Tamal Krishna Goswami, he had to meet with this devotee, with this guru's disciples, and explain everything. He had this meeting, but then when he was walking out, he made an interesting comment to some of his disciples. And the comment was about this person who gave up his sannyas and his guruship. He said that, yes, this person, he didn't have any friends. No one was really his friend, which is a problem, because if we don't have friends, then that's when all difficulties come. And that's when a lot of difficulties come in Krishna consciousness. We need friends. And even if difficulties do come, we have shelter in those friendships. As Rupa Goswami says, Dadati Pritikurnati Guyamaikati Prichiti, to Bhunkte Bhojete Chaiva Shadvidam Priti Lakshanam, the 6 loving exchanges, giving prasadam, accepting prasadam, giving gifts, accepting gifts, revealing one's mind of confidence, inquiring confidentially. These are the 6 loving symptoms that are shared between one Vaishnava and another. So it's very important, whether we're sannyasi or whatever, to have friendship. Loneliness is not good. So just a few more and then we'll end. Lack of experienced role models. It's also very important. We have role models, people that we look up to. Well-defined rules of conduct and well-established social system. So you should have understanding. What are the general rules and conduct that I should be living by in any particular station? Classical temptations, so we say low classical temptations, sex, wealth, and fame. Pride and offenses. Of course, we see this in the Bhagavatam. You have, of course, he's not a devotee, but the principle is still there. You have the meditator and the Yamuna. What's his name? Yeah, Sabara Muni. He's meditating there in the Yamuna. And anyone remember what happened to him? He was meditating there and he saw two fish copulating. Now, and he became sexually agitated, mentally agitated. So he just, came out of the river and then he came out and he wanted to satisfy his material desires. So he thought, okay, let me get married. I guess it was a more cultured time. Let me get married. So, but at the time he was spending so much time underwater, so you can imagine what he looked like, wrinkly, and so none of the women wanted to marry him. So by his mystic power, he transformed himself to a beautiful, handsome man. And then he married, I think it was something like 100 queens? 50? Okay. Yeah. Not much of a difference, right, at that point. 50, yeah, I guess there is a difference. But yeah, 50 queens. So now, he was meditating in there for so long. So what was the catalyst? He might have saw fish copulate another time. So, and also, how attractive is that? But what was the catalyst? What was the reason why he couldn't control himself or meditate? Does anyone remember? Yes, he offended Garuda. Because Garuda would come, and Garuda's right here also. We have Garuda. But he would come, and he's one of the only he's one of the Vaishnavas that doesn't have to follow one of those principles of no fish. All the other Vaishnavas have to follow. But so he would go into the Yamuna and have his dinner or lunch or whatever. But then Sarabhara Muni, taking special mercy on the fish, said, "If you come here again, I'm going to kill you. I'm going to curse you, and you could die." I believe that's what he said. So from that offense to the Vaishnav, material desires entered his heart. We also see that in Chaitanya Charitamrita with Srila Madhavendra Puri, when he was on his disappearance bed. He had two disciples, Ishvara Puri and Ramchandra Puri. Ramchandra Puri had an impersonal leaning, and his guru was lamenting. Madhavendra Puri was saying that I have not attained Krishna, and he was crying. And then his disciple Ramchandra came up to him and said, "Gurudev, you shouldn't be lamenting. It says in the Bhagavad Gita, Brahmabhuta Prasanatma, just meditate on Brahman." And then Madhavendra Puri was really upset. He said, "Get out, you sinful rascal. If I die seeing your face, I don't know what my destination will be." So he was denounced by Madhavendra Puri. And from that, he became a critic of everyone, of all Vaishnavas, even Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. There's a picture in the BBT artist made that you see Ramchandra Puri, he's pointing at the ground, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is looking very fearful. And he was criticizing Lord Chaitanya for, there's ants in where he was staying. And he said, "You must be keeping sweets. You're a sannyasi, you shouldn't be keeping sweets." So he became a critic of everyone full of material desire. So that's the problem with offenses. Midlife crisis. Sometimes that happens. People just, midlife crisis. They don't know they can't process things, don't have friends, or whatever it may be. Excessive self-confidence and lack of preventative means, lack of experience and a higher taste. So these are some things, and of course these principles can be seen again in our life. So positively, we want to work on having a higher taste. We want to be humble. We want to have friendship, avoid offenses. That higher taste will prevent us from the different pitfalls of Maya. We want to have experienced role models that we could depend on, take shelter of. And if we are Krishna conscious and we do these things, then we will have good personal relationships and good motivations. So all right. Does anybody have any question or comment? Okay.
Verse was 12. Let me just call it up again so I can... Stupid thing.
12?
Well, that's what we read today, right?
Yes, 13
12,
and 14
12.
as well.
Anyway, one of the qualities it says that we're supposed to follow is not to see women. How is that possible?
Well, you can move to the forest, but you probably see women there too. One time, Srila Prabhupada, the devotees in Brazil, I believe, because Hridayananda Goswami was preaching down there, South America was preaching down there, and then the Brahmin. Actually, it wasn't with Srila Prabhupada. It was a similar case, but Hridayananda Goswami, he was preaching down in South America, and there was a lot of young men joining, a lot of young women joining. And then the men, they were feeling disturbed, oh, there's so many women. And then there was some idea that the brahmacharis had that, oh, let's send all the women somewhere. I'm not sure what they're thinking, like to another temple or another country, who knows what they're thinking. But then Hridayananda Goswami said, oh, well, if all the women are gone, who will the brahmacharis, in the kirtan, who will the brahmacharis dance for, But it was also brought up to Srila Prabhupada, and he didn't like it. He was saying, this is mental speculation. Why are you coming up with these ideas? This is a strange idea. But in relation to seeing women, just like it's a question of the perception. How do we see women? How do we see money? How do we see everything? And the answer is that we should see everything as the energy of Krishna. And we don't see them in a mundane sense. We see them as energy of Krishna. And of course, all souls, they are part and parcel of Krishna, servants of Krishna. So in that way, for souls who have taken the form of a woman, they're also spirit souls, and they're servants of Krishna. And we should see them in that way and treat them in that way with respect and So that's the idea. So we shouldn't see them in a mundane sense.
I listen to Prabhupada's lectures, and of course, there's oftentimes, especially in the early days, questions. Anyone have any questions? Yeah. So I forget the verse, but there was something about restricting association with men and women, and so one devotee was asking, but what about Harinam? You have all the women going out on Harinam. He said, well, that's okay, because if you're chanting and you're absorbed in chanting, then you're protected. The whole idea is that and that was actually a big thing when Prabhupada came to America, because he saw that there's no question of starting a movement with just men. In Gaudiya Mat, there's not women's ashrams in those mats. Those are all men. So it was he had to accept that. Of course, he wanted anyone to get married if they felt agitated and everything. But he still started the brahmacharya ashram, which was controversial back in India when he did it. But he saw it was necessary, and we saw so many women play such an important role. Yamuna was incredible. Important. Shaka.
Yeah, that's interesting, the different preaching dynamics that go on in different countries, even now. Like, you go to Hong Kong, for example, or you go to China, and mostly it's women devotees. And if you go to Turkey, it's like that also. And Russia? Oh, really? But still, there's a lot of men, though, also. Majority. Well, Prabhupada talks about that in his books, that a majority of women tend to show up at religious functions and so on. But at least in Hong Kong and Turkey, it's like a real majority. But then you have places like India, and they seem to be having the opposite, if you want to call it a problem, which I guess you could maybe call it a problem, because if you get a lot of women, it means you're missing a lot of the other population, and if you get a lot of men, you're missing a lot of the other population. So, but in India, some places they tend to attract a lot of men, because they have a lot of these brahmachari preachers, and they're preaching at the colleges and so on, just focusing on men. And then they get a lot of people, hundreds, like Pune, for example, like hundreds and hundreds. And sometimes devotees have told me who participate in such programs, that later on there's some issue, because a lot of the men wanted to get married afterwards, but then they're not making a lot of women devotees, so they have to marry, somebody who's not really a devotee. Hopefully, and hope they're a pious Hindu that will become a devotee, so. But yeah, Srila Prabhupada, he engaged men and women in spreading Krishna consciousness. So, yeah, very wonderful thing. Any other question or comment? All right. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.